3, which is slopes of lines. And hopefully this is a review for a lot of you. Let's give this a shot. Alright, so the first thing we're going to talk about slope here, and I know you guys have done this before, is right here. Slope equals rise over run, y2 minus y1, and x2 minus x1. So that's just a picture of it here. Here's my rise. Okay, and we could just count the boxes there. So 1, 2, 3 boxes, or we can use the points. We could also use the boxes here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so let's do a couple example problems using a graph. We're going to count. Okay, and here's what we're going to do. We are going to basically draw our triangle like that. Okay, so we always say positive is to the right and positive is up. So we know this is positive slope, and so we're just going to count. So I have 1, starting at 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Or we can count the boxes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so if we're doing rise over run, my rise is 6, and my run, we'll start from there. We'll count the boxes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Or you can count the lines, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 6/8, which we would reduce to 3/4. Okay, let's try this one over here. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to count. We have to make a triangle for the whole entire thing. So if positive is to the right, my arrow is actually going to the left. And here's what I mean. I actually have to start over here and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the run. Okay, but that's going to be a -5 because I'm going opposite direction. Okay, going opposite direction of what I should do for positive. And now I'm going to count the y direction. Rise, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And so my answer would be -2. Okay, one thing we can think of, if you're thinking about a roller coaster going from left to right, and I'm going down, that's negative. Okay, and if you're thinking about a roller coaster going left to right and it's going up this way, then we know it's positive. So up is positive, down is negative. Okay, so that's how you would do it on a graph, counting. Now we're going to do it with math, with calculating. Okay, so our formula, I'm just going to write the formula on the top here. Slope equals y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. And to really help you guys out, what I would do is I would label my points. So we have x1, we have y1, we have x2, and we have y2. I would label my points, and then I would plug them in to the equation. Okay, so y2 is a -5 minus y1 minus a -2 divided by x2, which is negative 3 minus 6. So that turns to plus a positive, negative 3 over negative 9, and that will simplify to 1/3. Negative divided by a negative. The biggest issue with these is my negative answers, or my negative, adding negatives and positives, so make sure you're really focusing on that. All right, let's do this one. x1, y1, x2, y2. So then we do y2, which is negative 2 minus a negative 3, divided by negative 6 minus 8, plus positive, so that's 3 minus 2, which is 1, negative 6 minus 8, I can change that to plus a negative, and that would be my answer. Alright, now would be a good time to pause and try the last two problems on your own. So I'm going to label. So I have negative 3 minus 2 divided by 4 minus 4. I get negative 5 over 0. Guess what? If you type in negative 5 over 0 in your calculator, you're going to get an error or it's undefined. What we do is we call this no solution or undefined. You could also say undefined slope. It actually does not have a slope. And the last problem here, let's label. So we have 3 minus 3 divided by 4 minus a negative 3 would be 0 over 7, which is 0. My slope would be 0 there. Okay, moving on. We already talked about positive and negative slope. Okay, 0 slope, which we just found, okay, is a horizontal line. So an example for this might be y equals 5. And then there's a horizontal across the 5. Undefined slope is when we have a vertical line. And that would be, this would be something like x equals negative 3, this line here. So that line is drawn all the way up and down the negative 3 mark on the graph. Okay, so slope is a rate of change. We're not going to do the word problem there. We'll just move on to here. Okay, this is important. Slope of a parallel line. Okay, slopes of two parallel lines, which I'm going to highlight here in this picture, here and here. Okay, you can notice that those two lines have the same slope. They have the same rise over run. They're in a different place on the graph, but they have the same slope. So if two lines have the same slope, they are parallel. So parallel, what you might want to write in your notes is parallel lines, just say parallel, same slope. Now let's talk about if I have two perpendicular lines that make a right angle. Remember, perpendicular means two lines that cross that create a right angle. What's going to happen is you can see here that this slope is 4 and this slope is negative 1/4. So I go from 4 over 1 to negative 1/4. What did I do? I flipped the fraction and I made it opposite. I made it negative. So if it's perpendicular, it's called opposite reciprocal. And the reciprocal just means I flip the fraction. Okay, so another example would be if I went from, I'm going to change my color again. If I went from a negative 1/3, what would be the opposite reciprocal of that? Well, it's going to be a positive, and then I'm going to flip it. So that will turn into 3/1. Okay, that will be a question on the test, so make sure you have that down. Okay, so this exact thing will be on the test, so make sure we know how to do it. You are going to determine whether these lines are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. So AB is a line. I'll do my two ABs in green. And then we'll do CD in that color. Once again, my equation, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. x1, y1, x2, y2. I'm just going to label all these right now. y1. See, sometimes it gets confusing. All right, so here we go. We're going to find the slope. So I have y2, 0, minus 13 over negative 11 minus 14. It's going to come out to negative 13 over negative 25, which is 13 over 25. Now I'm going to come over to my other one, and I'm looking to see if it's parallel, right, which is same. So it's going to be the same slope, perpendicular, which is opposite reciprocal. I'll just put recip. Okay, let's give it a shot. Negative 5 minus 12 over, negative 5 minus 7. I'm already telling you the answer. Over negative 4 minus a negative 3. Change that to plus a positive. We get negative 12 over negative 1, which is 12. The answer for this one, I'm going to write in red, is neither, because they are not the same and they are not the opposite reciprocal. Okay, let's try another one together. So now let's label these x1, y1, x2, y2, x1, y1, x2, y2. So we have 2 minus 6, y2 minus y1. Just following that formula up there. And we have negative 9 minus 3. So now I have negative 4 over negative 12. And if I reduce all that, I'm going to get a positive 1/3. We're going to reduce our fraction, cross out the negatives, and we get 1/3. All right, changing colors. 3 minus 4 over 2 minus 5. That's a negative 1 over negative 3, which is 1/3. Look at that, we have the same slope. So we are going to say they are parallel. Okay, we're going to do one more of these. Why don't you guys pause and try this one on your own. Alright, so I'm going to separate F and H. Label x1, y1, x2, y2, x1, y1, x2, y2. Okay, slope y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, -1 minus a -3 over -2 minus 1 equals 2 over -3, negative 2/3. Let's look at my purple. We have 3 minus 0 over 6 minus 5, which is 3 over 1. So then we would say neither.